Okay, now that we understand this most basic concept of octave regions, let's add a layer. Let's start with a major chord. Now, when we build chords, they're built in this way. Take a look over here on the board, and what we have here is a major scale. This is a C major scale. You might not know how to read music, that's okay, but it sounds like this. I'm sure it's something that's very familiar to you. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay? Now, to each of these notes in the major scale, we assign a number called a scale degree. So we take this scale and we assign number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is the octave, right? We're starting again. We get to the same note we started with, just what we call an octave higher. All right. Now, I'm going to come at this subject from a particular angle here that might be a little different than how you'd learn it in a conservatory. Both ways are valid. It's just that the approach I'm taking here with you today better suits our purposes for now. So follow along with me. Okay, so back to the major chord. A major chord is built from a major scale in this way, taking the first scale tone, which is 1, or what we're going to call the roots, and then the third scale degree and the fifth scale degree. So from this, once again, major chord, major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to take 1, or roots, then 3 and 5. Now notice this, back to our octave regions. We can find the root of every chord we'll ever play right here in these 5 octave regions. Or in other words, the root to every major chord in the universe is laid out right here for you in this pattern of octave regions. Now let's add a major chord layer to these octave regions. So you'll see here's the pattern of octaves, right? Now I'm going to add a third to that. Okay, and I'm going to add a fifth. So within each octave region, I start with octaves, and then I'm going to add a layer of flesh to it, so to speak. I'm going to add these major chord tones, a third and a fifth. So I'm going to have this. Okay? Now understand that what makes a major chord is any combination of these 3 elements, root, third, and fifth. That's it. So within each octave region, we can find a major chord. That will give us 5 major chords, like this. Now we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Guitarists over the years have found certain major chords within each octave region that work best. They're easiest to play and sound best. So as we learn through this process, you'll find there are certain chords that will be your favorites, and simply because they're easiest to play or they sound good, and there are other chords that you'll avoid. So our most popular major chords, like I showed you, would look like this. That's popular there, either this or that or this. That's 5 major chord forms. Each one of these chords has a unique pattern we call a form, or a chord form. Now, I'm showing you 5 tried and true popular major chord forms. Now, each of these 5 major chord forms can be altered or juggled with an understanding of the principle I've just explained. In other words, with the understanding that the chord tones that make up a major chord are the root, third, and fifth scale degrees. Any combination of these 3 elements makes a major chord. So using these 5 basic chord forms within each of 5 octave regions that I've given you, you can manipulate or alter each chord form any way you like to suit your needs or preferences in any given situation, simply by juggling these 3 chord tone elements of root, third, and fifth. For example, let's look at region 1 again. Here's a very popular, tried and true basic major chord that I'm playing in region 1. Okay? And now here I happen to be playing the root, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. You notice that there are certain chord tones that I'm doubling, like I'm playing the fifth in 2 places, I'm playing the root in 3 places, I'm playing the third in only 1 place, but altogether sounds like this. So it's perfectly legal, so to speak, to double or triple any chord tones, but you don't want to omit any. Of course, when it comes to playing jazz, as you'll find later on, omitting certain chord tones, especially the fifth or even the root, becomes a popular, very convenient thing to do, especially for guitar players, but that's beyond what we're talking about right now. But for our intent and purpose here, we want to include each of these 3 chord tones and simply be able to alter what we've learned. So here in region 1, we have, if I play all those chord tones, once again, I have root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. I can put a certain combination together to give me this very popular chord form, or I can alter and juggle and come up with some different chords like this. These are going to be all the same chord. I'm playing a G chord here. These are going to be all G chords. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 alterations of that one single chord in region 1. So imagine coming up with 5 alterations in each of 5 octave regions. Any combination of these 3 elements makes a major chord. So using these 5 basic chord forms within each of 5 octave regions that I've given you, like I've shown you, you can manipulate or alter each chord form any way you like to suit your needs or preferences in any situation. So what we have here are 5 tried and true basic major chord forms that are transposable or movable in all 12 keys. That gives us 60 major chords, plus any manipulated or altered versions of these chords you can come up with. That's a lot of chords. So once again, so here I was playing for you a G chord. I can also make it A flat, A, B flat, B, C. I take the form and I transpose it or move it along the fingerboard. And all those alterations are all the same. I can still alter the chord the same way. It's all a major chord, all right? I'm simply taking those 3 elements of root, third, and fifth and juggling them around. Okay, so now let's go another step and build a minor chord. Now, like I said, I'm going to come at this subject from a particular angle, and that might be a little different than how you'd learn it in a music school. Both ways are valid. It's just that the approach I'm taking here with you better suits our intent and purpose for now. Now take a look at our major scale for a moment. Whereas a major chord is built with root, third, and fifth scale degrees, a minor chord is by taking that third scale degree, what we call a major third, and lowering it by 1 fret, or what we call a half step, making it what we call a minor third, or flat third, like this. Major third, I just lowered the third, right? Minor third, major third. So we have major, major third, minor third. Now, a most important thing to notice here is that we don't need to learn an entirely new world of dots, but rather by applying the simple basic principle we've already learned, we can easily learn over 60 plus minor chords. First, notice that our octave regions or pattern of roots remains exactly the same, unchanged. We're going to hang these elements or chord tones for the minor chord on the same skeletal framework of octave regions. Next, notice the fifth is the same for both the major and minor chord. So that doesn't change. The only difference between these two chords is the third. Now, all we need to do is lower each major third on the fingerboard by 1 fret or a half step, making it a minor third. And we can build every minor chord on the planet. So, now like major chords, there are certain tried and true popular minor chord forms in each of the 5 octave regions. So once again, as we learn through this process, you'll find there are certain chords that will be your favorites and others you'll avoid, simply because of their playability or ease of fingering and sound. So our minor chord forms in each of the 5 octave regions will look like this. So here's region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by observing these chord forms closely, you'll notice all we've done is lower the major third by 1 fret. Now similarly, each of these basic minor chord forms in each region can be manipulated or altered to make other minor chords simply by juggling the 3 chord tones. So just like we did for the major chord, here's the minor chord, right? And then I can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 altered version of the 1 big minor chord. All right? So now, just like that, you've learned another 60 plus chords by applying these very simple principles, and likewise, taking this minor chord form is transposable anywhere on the fingerboard, right? So that